Dr. Teresa Vasquez, but you can call me Dr. T, and I'm the co-founder of Rept in Tech, and I am so thrilled to welcome you to our channel. At Rept in Tech, we support and invest in diverse technical creator projects, especially those involving media, like streaming, video, and podcasts. You see, our mission is to amplify your tech rep and to help you succeed in this tech industry, y'all, so that you can live the big timer. You can expect insightful tutorials and how-tos, interviews with diverse voices in tech, tips on branding and how to showcase your work, and also live Q&A sessions. Y'all, the sky is the limit. So if you are passionate about tech and you want to learn and grow and connect with a vibrant, diverse technical community, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you never miss an update. You don't want to miss no updates, y'all. Also, check out our website at reptin.tech so that you can learn how to join our Discord community and find all sorts of resources. Thank y'all for joining us, and let's amplify your tech rep together. Hey everybody, Dr. T here. I wanted to jump on and welcome you to our cohort session. If you are one of our cohort members, a part of the community who have signed up for the community, you should also currently be inside of a live room. So what that means is inside of the community, there's also a live room that you can access that everyone who's a part of the cohort will also be in there. And we keep our cohorts really small, so don't worry about it. You can keep your camera off if you want to. But how our format goes is we show you something and then we ask you to go do it for a time period, and you'll hear some cool music and then a timer will go off and then we'll come back together. During that time, if you are a part of our cohort and our community, you'll be able to interact with us, with Trinity, with myself, with others from the community who are willing to support you. And then once the session is over, we will spend the remainder of the time inside of the community live session so that you can ask any questions there as well. If you are not a member of the cohort, at Rept in Tech, we believe that everyone should have access to high quality education. And so while you can interact and you can talk with us through the live stream, during the times that we are doing the 10-minute sessions and things of that nature, we'll be focused specifically on the community. So if the moderators are not communicating with you at that time, just know that that's why. You, of course, could sign up for free to take the cohort. You can go to repschool.com. Okay, there's still time to sign up. And then you will also have access to all of the recordings so you can go back and catch up. But also being a member of Rep School gives you access to our AI recordings, which allows you to facilitate your learning in different ways as well. All right, y'all, thank you so much for joining us on this session. So let's get it started.
All righty, y'all. Hello. I am Trinity Christiana, and welcome to session 3 of the Rep School's HTML and CSS 101 course within Rep School. Okay, today we're learning all about links, and of course, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of styling in there to make our links look great. So go ahead and grab your code spaces, go ahead and start your live servers, and let's dive in. Okay, let's get this pulled up over here. Okay. So first, what we have to talk about is the link tag, okay, or the tag that we use to link. Of course, there's a link tag up here, but this is not the tag that we actually use to create a link on the site that the user can click, okay? The tag that we are going to be using is the A tag, okay? And this is what it looks like. So within the A tag, we actually use an attribute called href, okay, which is equal to a string. And within here, we can actually link a internal site, so any pages in here that exist within our site, or we can also add some external links, so pages that do not exist within our site, and we will give it a absolute, in the address bar, it will usually start with http://www yada yada yada. But for the internal links, we'll actually be using the path. So for instance, if I were to try to do 1.html. What we would do is we would do like slashes and 1.html, but it would not actually have the www. Okay. Something that we can also do is we can open links within tags. Open links within a new tab using the attribute called target. Okay. And then if we set that to underscore blank. Okay, let me fix this since I got extra. Perfect. Okay, let's move that space. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, you want to make sure you have the right stuff in there. So let me do that. Okay. Well, I'll show you an example of why you would want to open something in a new tab later. But right now, let's actually get our blogs ready to link. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over here and I want to rename this to make it a little easier for us to know what we're linking to. So I'm going to actually call this blog 1.html. And then so that later on, while we test out our links by going to this page, we want to make sure that we know what page we're on. So I'm going to go ahead and add H1 to this same blog page. Okay. Or blog 1. Let's just stick with blog 1. Keep it simple. Okay. So we actually want to create 2 other blogs because on our page, we have 3 blogs that are previews. We want to make sure we have at least 3 blogs. So what I'm going to do to make this easy is I'm going to right click this. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to right click the directory that I want this to exist in, which is blog. And then I'm going to paste. And it makes a copy of that. And then I'm going to do that one more time. So now I have copies of that blog 1. Now I have 3 of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename, right click, rename one of these to blog 2. And then I'm going to rename the other one to blog 3. Now, if at any time I'm moving too fast, know that you can have access to this video within our course. So also you'll have time to try this on your own after each section. So feel free to right now to just watch what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to update the title and the H1 of each one of these blogs to make sure that they are correct. Perfect. Save that. Now this gives us 3 unique blog pages that we can now link to. Okay. So now let's actually create links to these blog pages. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this A tag that I made before, and I'm just going to do the href of slash, because that's where we're going to be starting from. And we know we're going to be adding a link to the home page, right? Because in navigation, just because you're on the page doesn't mean that that page does not show up in the navigation, okay? So we're going to have one for the home page, one for blog 1, one for blog 2, enter, and one for blog 3. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in this, the text that we want to show up for the link. So home, blog 1, blog 2, blog 3. Now, if I open, we open the server. Okay. Okay, what I also want to do is I am just going to go here and comment out my fancy fonts. We can actually see what's going on. Refresh. Okay. So now that I have these up here, see blog 1, blog 2, but this isn't taking us anywhere. Now we have to tell it where exactly to go. Okay. Now it's keeping us at home because that's what slash means. Slash means home. Okay. But we want to take them to the blog pages. So how we're going to do that is we are going to be using absolute paths. Okay. Now there's another way to add a path. There's relative path. If you want to dive deeper into those different path types, feel free to check out the book connected to the course. But for now, we're just going to use absolute because it's easier for beginners to understand. Okay, so for blog 1, let's see where this lives. Blog 1 lives within the blog directory, okay, which is in the root. So I'm going to say, in order to get to that blog page, you have to go into the blog directory, okay, and then add another slash, have to go into blog 1. Now, if you noticed, if you start typing within this href, CodeSpace will actually give you autocorrect. Okay, or autocomplete is what it's called. Okay, please, please, please use it because it is really, really, really easy for you to add a space, miss a character, right? But if you use this autocomplete, it's only going to show you files that exist within your project. So feel free to use it. And I'm going to. I want this to go to blog 2. Perfect. Start typing. I want this to go to blog 3. I'm going to save that. And let's test our links. Okay. Blog 1. Nice. Blog 2. Perfect. Blog 3. Okay. So now there are no links on our blog pages. What we're going to do is we are going to do some copy pasta because we already did all this work on these links. I'm just going to copy, and then right above our H1s, I'm going to paste. Okay. Pasted it, go back here, and now these links show up. So now if I want a blog page, I can go either to another blog page or I can go home. Okay. Now, I don't know if you notice, but if I'm on this home page here and I click the home link, look what happens. You click that, my page is refreshing. How I know the page is refreshing is this little refresh button changes, and also up here you can kind of see it reloading. We do not want that to happen. Okay, we do not want our site to have to work harder than it needs to, because if the user is on this page, we don't want it to reload. Okay, so an easy thing that we can do to keep the user from clicking the link and reloading the page that they're currently on, we can just go to our href. We can change the value of this, of the link that the link to the page that we're currently on. We're going to connect that href to # or hashtag, however you want to pronounce it. Okay. Now, if I add that to the home page, if I'm here, notice what happens, or notice what doesn't happen when I click the home. Clicking it, you can see it turns red, but it is not refreshing, which is perfect. Okay. Now, if you notice in blog 1, it's refreshing. So we got to go to all of our blogs and update that as well. So for blog 1, I'll change this to #. Blog 2, make sure you're adding it to the correct link. Blog 3, and that. So now when I'm on blog 1, it shouldn't refresh. On blog 2, shouldn't refresh. Blog 3, shouldn't refresh. Perfect. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to add links to these previews that we have, okay, because that's what they're for. We want the user to be able to look at these and be like, okay, I'm looking at this and I actually want to go to this page, okay? So what we're going to do is the same way we added text up here and we wrap this text in a tag, we are going to wrap the image and the text within these articles, because that's where these blogs are stored, and we are going to add a link, okay? I'm going to go down here to where my blogs exist. I see that I have this H3 and H4. I'm just going to move that out of the way, right up there. And if at any time you see how my HTML looks like this, and then I do some magic and I format the page, how you can do that is you can right click the document, you can click format document, and it'll make everything pretty for you. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add the A tag around each image and paragraph tag. Okay, I know they're empty, but we want to make sure that we structure this correctly before we add any values. Okay, and I'm going to format it so it's pretty. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my perfect autocomplete. I'm just going to do href equals slash. Remember, it always starts at slash blog, and it's going to be blog 1. It's href. Okay, slash blog, and it's going to be blog 2. Love this autocomplete. Href, we're going to do slash, and then we're going to do blog 3. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to test this. Okay, you can see that the text here now looks like it's a link. Whenever you go to a page, you can tell that a page is a link if it is blue and if there's an underline under. Okay, sometimes there might be some styling stuff in there that and some pages you might see text that looks like this. That might not be text. There might not be a link. That is a-okay. Another way you can tell that something is a link is if you hover over it, the arrow will usually turn into a little finger. That's a little pointer, right? That says, hey, I can click on this. So now if I go here and I click on this first blog, it takes me to blog 1. Let's try the second one. Takes me to blog 2. Oops. Now go to here. It takes me to blog. Oop. That one took me to blog 2. Did I do that? I did the wrong one. Okay, I need to update that to go to blog 2. Okay, so let's go back and test that link one more time. Click it. Oops. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I might need to refresh it again. Go home. Scroll down. Blog 3. There we go. Sometimes if it doesn't update, you have to refresh. Alrighty. So now we have those working. So now we have added a link, an internal link to a text. We've added an internal link around multiple elements, an image, and a p tag. Now let's actually talk about external links, okay? So at the bottom of this page, if you scroll, you should see a couple of social icons, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make these icons work, okay? Or what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the icon and the text, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the blog items at the top. I'm just going to do this, make it a little easier than wrap it. A tag. Oops. Enter. Now you might notice whenever I can select a line and then if I do option down, it'll actually move the element down. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to format. Perfect. So I actually have the links to these sites. So when you do this, you will find whatever link you want, whether that be your business, whether that be yours, or you can just have it be the homepage if you do not have some of the socials. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add, I have the Instagram one, okay. Notice that this one starts with HTTPS:/. Okay, so that's how I know it's an external link. At the YouTubes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the LinkedIn one. Perfect. So now I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna go down. Okay, now this looks like a link. Now I'm gonna click it, and what does it do? It takes me to where it should go. Perfect. Okay. So now we know that this works. There's a little issue though. Okay. If I click on any of these links, my site is now replaced by this link. We don't want that to happen because now I, as a user, have lost my place on your page. I could continue to scroll on LinkedIn, right? Go from page to page to page. And then, okay, I'm like, okay, I want to go back to the site that I was on, and now it's gone. Remember before when I mentioned the underscore blank value of the attribute, of the target attribute? That's what we're going to add to these, okay? So for any external link that we add, we usually 9 times out of 10 want to make sure that it opens in a new tab, okay? So that the user can click on the link, explore whatever we gave them access to, and then they can easily get back to our site when they feel like it, okay? So I'm going to add target underscore blank, okay? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this onto all of my links. I'm going to go back to the site. And now you can also refresh to make sure that it stays updated. And now when I click link, it opens it in a new tab. Click the YouTube link, opens it in a new tab. And guess what happens if I click the Instagram icon? It opens it up in a new tab. This is perfect. So now that essentially wraps up our A tag section. Okay, so now our site is linking seamlessly across our internal pages. So home pages can go to any blogs, blog pages can go to other blogs and the home page. Okay, we also have updated some of our content within the page of our home page to now be linked to external sites, as well as open that external site in a new tab so that the user does not lose their place. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into class selectors. Okay. So within CSS, you can actually use something called dot notation to target specific elements. Okay. And how we can target specific elements is instead of saying, hey, I want you to target this tag, I want to add my own type of tag. Okay. I want to add kind of like an actual tag that you would think within a site where you can tag things and add a little category. I want to add my own personal tag to an element so I can select it via that tag. So any element that I add this tag to, I want this style to be applied to it. We can do that. And how we are going to do that is we are going to create a class called active link where we are going to highlight the current page's link that we are on. So if we're on the home page, if I see the home page link, it's going to be highlighted so that the user can know that I am here on the home page. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So if I go into my CSS file, you can see in here up until now, the only thing that I have been targeting are tags. Okay. So in CSS, I'm going to go ahead and define the class in here before I use it within my HTML. Okay. So in order to select a class, what you can do is you can do dot and then you add the class name. So I'm going to do active link. Okay. And then I want this link to have a font weight. Okay. Essentially what font weight does is it controls how thick, how thin that the text appears. Okay. So I want this to be, let's say 800. Okay. All you need is a number, no pixels or anything. I'm going to do 800. And then I'm going to do text decoration. Ooh. And I'm going to set this to none. Okay. So what text decoration does is it essentially handles underline. Ooh, I just realized you cannot see on the screen. Okay. Here we are. So we are in the CSS file, and I just added this here. Okay, so I added the dot active link. So this is the new class that we have. And added the font weight and add the text decoration to none. What text decoration does is it handles underlining the text. You can add overlines even, and you can just add a bunch of different type of text decorations to your text. What we're going to do here, though, is we are going to remove all text decoration. So if you remember before when I mentioned that anytime there's a link on the page, it automatically adds the underline. We're going to remove that underline from any active links. Okay. So now that we have defined this rule for this class within CSS, let's go ahead and start adding this rule to our HTML. Okay. So if I go into my index.html and I want to add this to this A tag, because remember, if we're on the home page, home link is the active link. And how you add this class to an element, it's pretty easy. You just say class, that's the name of the attribute, equals, and then whatever the class name is. So within your CSS, know that when you add this, you do dot and then the class name. Okay, the class name does not include the dot. So when you add it to the element, make sure that you add the class name without the dot. I'm going to save that. And I wonder how my homepage link is going to look. I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to refresh. Look, there is no longer an underline under that. Ain't that nice? Okay, and it's bold. You can see it's a little bolder than other ones. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this same class. I'm going to copy this on my other pages because when I go to my blog pages, I want that same behavior to happen. So I'm going to go into my blog pages. I'm going to add this class to my active links. Okay. Now I'll go over here and I notice, my class, I refresh and my classes aren't attached. I think it's because in my index.html, I have the CSS linked, but I do not have the CSS linked in my blog. So what do I think we should do? We should go in here and we should just grab all the CSS stuff. So I'm going to grab all the links just in case you want your font to also exist on your blog pages. I'm just going to copy and paste that into each and every one of my blog pages. So now when I go over here, all the styles are there. So now I have the background color of pink. And now this active link is bold. And if I go to blog 2, look, bold. Blog 3, bold. Love it. Okay. So now every active link that you see within our navigation specifically, and you can add this class wherever you'd like, you should see the link appear bold and with no underline so that the user can instantly know where they are. Perfect. So we just introduced some class selectors by defining the active link within CSS. In that class, we have decided to say, okay, whenever this class is applied to an element, I want this element to be bold, and then I want no underline under it. We then added that class two elements. Okay, so we created the definition, and now we told the HTML where we want that class to be applied to. And now you can see the current page that you're on right at the top of the screen. It's easy. Okay. So now we're going to get into a little bit of fun. We're going to play around a bit. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to get into, of course, some new CSS properties and some pseudo selectors. Okay. So we're going to be using the display property specifically to hide a message and then to reveal it on hover. So whenever the mouse hovers on top of an element, as well as whenever the keyboard focuses, because we want to make sure that to keep this keyboard accessible for people who do not have a mouse. And we also are going to do this all without JavaScript. Okay, that's the beauty of pseudo selectors. So let's dive into it. Let's work on it. So let me make sure that I have my screen up so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go into my index.html page, and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to find an article that I like. What article do I want this? I'm going to add it to, I'm going to add it to this Trinity is the best. Okay, you can pick any article that you want. Just make sure that you are putting this within an article tag. Okay. And what I'm going to do is this article tag is I'm actually going to get a class to it. So we're going to be adding a specific class to this. And I want to call this scavenger hunt. Okay. Make sure I spelled that correctly. Okay. Okay. So I added scavenger hunt there. Okay. Now at the very bottom of this article, or really anywhere in this article that you want to add, but I'm going to add it to the very bottom. I'm going to add a p tag, and I'm going to say, but then it's you found me. Ha, 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 ha. You win. Let's say, I don't know, whatever you want to put in there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm now going to add a class to this called show on hover. Okay. So you want a class to be specific. So this is what we want to show on hover of the article. Okay. So we save that. Make sure I'm doing my notes. Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to go into our CSS, we go on the bottom here, and we are going to add some default styles. Because if I go to where I added that, and I refresh, you can see that you found me, you win nothing, okay? We want to hide that by default. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that class, right? It's called show on hover. And we are going to say, I want this to be display none. Okay. So you can kind of think of display none as like putting an element within a sealed box. Okay. The element still exists on the page, but it actually disappears from the page. Well, it exists within HTML, but it disappears from the page that the user is viewing. Okay. And it takes up zero space. Okay. It's not like the text just disappears and there's still a space for the text. It actually no longer shows up on the page. Okay. Everything around it just flows through as if nothing was there. All right, I'm going to show you that. So now I'm going to go over here. It's gone. So if I comment this class out and I save, it should come back. Sure did. If I comment that back in and save, it's gone. Perfect. So now I want it to show up whenever I hover over this article. Okay, this article is this image as well as this text. Okay, so how you can do that is you can select the class of scavenger hunt, Should I spell that right? Okay. And then I can add the pseudo class of hover. And how I do that is I do colon and then I do hover. Okay. So this says every single time that I hover, okay, or my mouse is over the element with this class, which is this entire element here, scavenger hunt. Okay. I want you to, with this next class, show on hover. I want you to find the element. Excuse me. I want you to find the element within this element that has, so when you have these next to each other, it's like saying, okay, find the scavenger hunt and then find something with the class of scavenger hunting. Okay, so what this says is I want you to go to scavenger hunt here, okay, but I want you to apply the element with the class within that scavenger hunt element. Okay. If you really want to dive a little bit deeper into the CSS selectors, feel free to look within the book to learn a little bit more about how that works. So now I'm going to apply display block. Okay. Now you can see that there are multiple values you can add to display. For this one specifically, we're going to add display blocks just because a p tag is displayed in block instead of inline. If you want to dive a little bit deeper into those, also feel free to look within the book. But for the sake of time, just know that by default, p tag will have the default of display being block. Okay, so now I'm going to save that. And now let's see what happens if I hover over the look. I'm hovering over the element and it's showing up. Haha, you found me. You and nothing. Okay. Now, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this a little bit more accessible. We're going to copy and paste this style. We also want to do the same thing on focus. Okay. On focus of the scavenger hunt, essentially what this means is whenever this is selected via your tab key. Okay. So for people who don't have a mouse and they want to tab through to all the links, this will also show up on the page for them. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so looking at the pseudo classes, whenever you have a class that looks like this, where you have or pseudo class. You can do is you can also add colon hover to a tag. Okay, it doesn't have to be attached to a class, but in this case it is. It says, okay, this right here will only apply whenever we are hovering over the scavenger hunt. Okay. And then this one here just says this will only apply whenever you have tabbed into scavenger hunt. Okay. Alrighty, so that was fun. We've just explored the display property, as well as, there we go, so you can see me. So yeah, we just explored the display property as well as playing around with some pseudo selectors, so specifically hover and focus, to create a very interactive, kind of like a little keyboard or mouse Easter egg, all done using a single line of JavaScript. Using the power of pseudo classes is fun, okay? Now we have one more thing to talk about. Let's go ahead and talk about link shadows, okay? Okay, so what we want to do is we actually want to make our links really pop using text shadow property, okay? So we're going to do this both on hover and focus because, again, we want to be accessible. So whenever a keyboard user or a mouse user hovers over a link, we want a shadow to pop up, okay? We want it to pop, okay, to give our users feedback. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go into here. So if you go in here, notice that whenever you hover over a link, it doesn't do much, okay? You don't really know if you're hovering over a link outside of the fact that you have this mouse, okay? This little mouse change. So what we want to do is we want to select all of our links because we want to apply this within all of our links. I'm actually going to go up here where our tags are, and I'm going to say for every A tag on hover, I want you to add the text shadow, okay, to new property. And I want to do the value of 1 pixels, then 1 pixels, then 11 pixels, and an orange. Don't worry. Actually, I'm going to turn this green. Okay. So essentially what this is saying is this first value here that you give it to, it tells you how far to the right you want it to move. You can also use negative numbers. If you use negative, it shows you how far to the left. Second one here talks about how far down you want the text shadow to be. And if you do negative, it's how far up. Now this one, the third item here is the blur radius. So this tells you how soft the glow is, so how harsh or how blended it is. And then this last one here, if you kind of use the context clues of what we had before, this just says what color the text box is, okay? So now when I save, oh wait, I gotta remember to do the same thing on focus. And I actually want to show you a way, if you don't want to have to duplicate this, what you can do is you can actually take this selector, add a comma, enter, just so you can know that it's different. And then you can apply the same rule to both of these selectors. So I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go over here to my page. Now I'm going to hover. Look, now when I hover over a page or a link, it is green. Go over here. Any of these pages, it does the same. So now, every time I'm over here, I know if I'm about to click on a link. And this should also be applied to our blog pages because we attached it, CSS to it. I love it. Before we forget, we actually want to make sure that we save our changes. So let me go ahead and go through here. Check to make sure. Okay with renaming that one. Okay, this is new. This is new. It's also new. We updated our CSS. Sure did. Get that out. Alrighty. So added links and styling. Perfect. So add the message. I go ahead and commit. Save changes. It's up. All right. Now I'm going to go back to GitHub. Let's see if I can go to my. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and go out to my repo. Then I'm just going to double check that my commit has been added. It loads. And perfect. Updated just now, added links and styling. All right. Okay, we just got through a lot there. Okay, so that actually wraps up session 3. Today we did a bunch. We linked pages with the A tag. We highlighted the current page that we're on using a class selector instead of just the tag. We also put a little Easter egg within the page using a new property called display. And we also were able to use some pseudo classes, specifically hover and focus, to have certain styles be applied to an element based on a user's behavior. So whether a mouse goes over it or whether the keyboard taps to it. We also added text shadows within links so that users can know whether or not they're about to click a link. Okay, so we added text shadows so it adds a little bit of green hues to it. Okay, so if you want to, for extra practice, try hiding some Easter eggs within any of your blog pages. Okay, and play around with different styles for your active link. My shadow is green. Feel free to make yours yellow if you want. Anything you want. Okay. But I can't wait to hear about what you build. I cannot wait also to see you in our next session. Be good, y'all.